we're having a lot of clients show up with a AI generated talk, and we can see right through it. I'm like, who wrote this for you? And they'll say, I threw it through AI. And I said, well, we have a lot of work to do right now because no one's going to believe that. We can use AI as a tool, but it can't be completely written by AI. We have to work on delivering it in a way that is super authentic. It is so important to lean into your real words, your real thoughts, your real vision, what matters to you and your heart right now.
Welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Andy Temte. On the Balancing Act, we talk to business leaders and industry experts to explore the balancing acts we play in our professional lives and learn about the events that put rocket boosters behind their career success. Today, we have Kathryn Janicek joining us. Kathryn is a former TV news reporter and producer with experience that spans all the major networks. And since 2015, she's led Janicek Performance Group and partners with Fortune 500 companies to transform brilliant leaders into influential communicators who move markets, inspire confidence, and drive measurable business outcomes. Welcome to the show, Kathryn.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. This is really exciting. It's great to meet you.
Yeah, so we're going to talk all about communication, executive presence. It's going to be a lot of fun today. Kathryn, before we get started all the way, give our listeners the elevator pitch version of your story.
The elevator pitch. I was in television for 20 years all over the United States. I led TV newsrooms and created TV news shows and coached anchors and reporters on how to keep the audience for 30 seconds longer, several minutes longer through that awful commercial break. And then I was laid off. With a lot of journalists have been laid off in the last 20 years, and 11 years ago that happened to me. And I decided that first I will say, I got some coaching from my father, and he said, why don't you go and call your old university and see if you could be a journalism teacher? And I said, Dad, that sounds really hard to be a teacher. Education seems very difficult to me.
Yeah.
I'll start a company.
Great idea.
I chose my heart. So I started our company to be purely media training. And then every CEO who I coached to be on 60 Minutes or, their local TV, they said, can you coach our teams on how to communicate in a soundbite or communicate better internally and externally? So then, a majority of our company now, over a decade later, is public speaking coaching.
Kathryn, if you had to pick an event in your life that was a key accelerant for your career, what would that be? Keeping in mind that we're going to talk about I-35W a little later in the show.
It has to be. I know this is very cliche because a lot of people come on podcasts and talk about layoffs, but it really was the layoff because this is the year that I turned 50 and I totally was going to be a news director in Chicago or New York or LA at 50. Like that was what I didn't think about anything else. I went to school at Marquette in Milwaukee for journalism. There was no other, to me, that was the journey. I wanted to do print journalism back in the 90s, and then it turned into TV journalism, and that was it. But then when you get laid off at 38 years old, you say, gosh, I don't know if I want to get laid off again. And I want to see if I can maybe take more power into my own. And that's when I started our company. And it really snowballed. So that layoff moment was definitely the life changer.
Well, I appreciate you bringing that to us because so many people, and rightfully so, in the moment, a layoff is a terrible thing to go through. But yeah, I talked to so many people that have a story very similar to yours, where it was just this accelerant, this shift, this key that unlocked something else that they didn't know was there. So I appreciate you giving that hope to the folks who are listening.
I had no idea entrepreneurialism and owning a company was there. I was in junior achievement in high school. So maybe I was, if you really look back, maybe it was something that I was always interested in, but it wasn't something that was taught to me in school or by my parents. having a 9 to 5, grinding, making sure that you're loyal to a company. That's what I was taught, and I was told to, like, make sure you show your value there. I'm really grateful that I tried this, and I didn't give up, because now I employ full time, over a dozen people, and we have so many, lots of other people who count on us as 1099 employees. So I'm really grateful.
Yeah, and I love in your opening statement that you chose your hard, and I love that you thought that teaching was harder than starting a business. That's just
What did I know?
that's just hilarious. In retrospect, hilarious.
In
Uh,
retrospect.
Kathryn, tell us about Janicek Performance Group. What differentiates JPG from the literal sea of leadership development and communication consulting firms that are out there?
We we are very different because we treat the whole person. It's very much of a holistic 360 approach. And I didn't think of this when I first started it, but every time I would see an issue with a client, or an unlock a client needed, a CEO, a leader, someone who wanted to become CEO someday, or get into that C-suite, I realized just coaching them on the content, that public speaking piece, that was not enough. So over the years, in the last 7 to 8 years, we brought on two psychotherapists who work on that mindset coaching, because every single person benefits from working on their mindset, their growth mindset, and figuring out what from childhood is stopping them, preventing them from being even greater on a stage or in front of their teams, or specific speaking things come from something that they were told and they're holding on to from 2 decades ago. We brought on a paralinguistic coach. We have a speech. One of the people on our team, our PhD in communications, likes to say we have everyone from a speech pathologist to makeup artists and executive wardrobe person. So see how we treat every part of what that leader needs.
That's wonderful. So, Kathryn, I'm sitting in La Crosse, Wisconsin right now, 120 miles or so south of Minneapolis. We all really remember the I-35W bridge collapse back in 2007, and you were literally the point of contact for the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office as media relations director. So we can't do this show without talking about that. Tell us about how that experience has shaped the leader that you are today and how it influences the work you do at JPG.
I was very young in my career at that point when that happened. And I was recruited by the sheriff's office. I was working at one of the television stations in Minneapolis at the time, and I came aboard just months before that bridge collapse. And I will never forget, I was going out with my fiance at the time. We were going to go see a movie. I worked a lot of hours, and that night we decided to go on a date night. And then the bridge collapsed, and my beeper went off, because that was back when we had beepers in a
Beepers.
Motorola phone. And my beeper goes off, and everything changed after that. My life personally changed after that. My life professionally changed after that. And it really did shape me as a leader. I had a front row seat of what leaders do during crisis. And I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, this was a big enough crisis where George W. Bush comes into town on a helicopter. Every single network newscaster, Shep Smith, all the big names were right there on, steps away from the bridge doing the live newscast for weeks. I had Polish newspapers, because the sheriff at the time had a Polish last name, and I had a Polish last name, and they were calling from Poland and Japan on my BlackBerry. It was one person getting all the phone calls. It was a huge lesson on what leaders should do during crisis and what they shouldn't do, having preparation. There wasn't really a big comms. This was a law enforcement agency. So of course law enforcement had a plan and they had backup plans and they had a beautiful plan, but there was no real communications plan. I was brand new. There's one person. So I was the lone communications plan or person. After all the bodies were recovered, finally, we had created crisis plans. We went into retreats right away to make sure we had one. And then the sheriff and I went across the state and we taught on that crisis plan. And nationally, we also did too. I taught at a PIO, conference, et cetera. I learned that over communication internally and externally inside of a company is paramount. You must communicate, and it can't be just to the CEO or the sheriff it has to be all layers of the company has to communicate. I teach directors, I teach managers that you need to communicate up and down and all around, right? In that case, I had to make sure to convince the entire department. We had to update the media every 30 minutes because if the media is not updated, they're going to make up. There's going to be gaps of communication that they're not going to have. And so it's not like but they're going to trust whatever information comes out, right? So you as a leader needs to communicate and overly communicate. And then also, I learned that you have to have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. You have to have more than just your plan A, and you have to be okay with pivoting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And quickly.
Yeah.
So when something goes on, you can't hold on to too closely what your original plan was. You have to communicate why we're going to change, and we have to change quickly.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing for those listeners who are working in company XYZ is to develop your communication plan, structure, and strategy using the easy stuff, the day-to-day communication, strategic plan, maybe communicate up and down and across the organization, build those muscles so that when things do go sideways, you've got those muscles already built, and you can rely on those muscles to get you through instead of, oh my goodness, we're not any good at this, and this is killing our business. Am I on point here?
You're right on point. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kathryn, I want you to take us back behind the scenes of that decision the decision was made for you basically to move from the news biz into executive coaching. What other lessons can our listeners learn from that moment of courage and career change?
I have learned since that I should have been one is you got to follow the journey, right? Like I had a plan and then the plan there was a bump in the road, right? And I had to quickly like maybe just how I just explained how all leaders should, I had to what was my plan B and pivot because I needed an income. I didn't have a second income. I wasn't married at the time. I did not want to move back in with my parents as much as they would have taken me in a heartbeat. I didn't want that to be what I leaned on. And so I needed to come up with income quickly. So I had to follow the journey. I just had to pivot, right? And there was demand. People started asking me for media training. And so honestly, I just followed the demand. Like back in high school, I took a macro and micro econ class. And I will always just think about don't just make up something that doesn't have a customer, follow the demand. And I just kept following the customer, what they asked for and following the demand and creating things for the customers that I had and potential customers. And also, I will say I did a very poor job of networking while I was working. And there was nothing wrong with how I was built and how I was coached by my parents. Like I was so loyal to my employers. I worked my butt off. I was definitely one of those employees who worked Monday through Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Like I just gave it my all. I didn't really have I didn't have a side gig. I didn't have anything outside of my company that I was super loyal to. So I also did I just didn't network. So I really didn't know what other opportunities were out there for me. And I didn't build really incredible relationships outside of the newsroom. So when my company, or when I did need to start a company, I just didn't have those relationships. For example, Andrew, like I coached CEOs who were on my morning newscast, and I got them ready for it and gave them like some tweaks, right? Made sure that they were really effective, but I never got any phone numbers,
Right, right,
I
right.
didn't really, I wasn't like creating my Rolodex. Like I put the biggest leaders of the city of Chicago at the time, and then, before that, Minneapolis, on my newscast, but I wasn't networking. I wasn't thinking about what could happen later. So, and I love the fact that I've learned that from every leader who I coach now, that they do a great job networking, and everybody knows that they can do a better job. So, I definitely would say I should have done a better job networking while on the job, not because that's like being a bad employee, but also helps your current job if you never go anywhere.
Yep, yep, absolutely. That's great advice. We're going to take a really short commercial break, and we'll be right back with Kathryn Janicek. Want to understand money, markets, and the economy to make better financial decisions? I'm Andy Temte. Join me every Saturday morning for Money Lessons with Andrew Temte on YouTube or your favorite podcast streaming service. And we're back with Kathryn Janicek talking about communication and the importance of executive presence. Kathryn, as I was digging around into your background before the show, I noted that you used the phrase, "Fear is a terrible creative director." Walk our listeners through what fear actually does to a leader's communication, to their voice or body language, and their ability to think on their feet, and what they can do about it.
Fear does very physical things. It creates pain. I know when I'm afraid of something, or I'm nervous or scared, I get like everybody, it shows up in different ways, right? Some people get headaches, they get migraines. I literally will feel my back constrict on the right hand side of it. And fear creates that shaky voice, right? The nerves, the fear, it can stop people from saying yes to really great opportunities for themselves. So that really hurts a company. When the CEO, there, I learned a couple of years ago, I took some really great business coaching because I wanted to scale our company. I wanted to bring on really talented people. I love creating jobs. Like when I first started our company, I was really I was only thinking about the clients I was helping. Now I love helping our clients, and I love creating opportunities for other people to come work for us. And I love creating jobs. I find this new mothering, this new maternal thing, this whatever, this new incredible thing that I get to create is jobs. And if I don't have confidence in my company, I don't grow, and there's no more jobs, right? There's no more jobs. So part of what we do inside of our company is we help grow the confidence in the CEO. We help them, bring down brick walls or create tools where they say yes to all the opportunities that they need to say yes to, like getting on conference stages to talk about their industry or their company specifically. Do those media interviews that they're afraid of. I'm working with a really incredible AI founder right now, and his company, not him, because usually the the people I coach don't hire me because they're like, I don't need her, or I'm afraid of public speaking, right? Like just like going to the dentist. It's usually the team who hires me. And this one founder needs to do a lot of media in the future to promote the company, create more jobs, get more clients, do more great work. But he's really afraid of media interviews. And I'm working with him right now to clear that fear so he can double his company, because he's gone up by like hundreds of percentage points in the last 2 years. And I want to see him continue that. But if he has fear, if he sits in that fear, he's not going to grow his company. So it's a very scary reality. And that is something we have to be aware of. So fear drives you to make terrible decisions like saying no to opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And there are very physical things you can do. And one is to learn how to do some deregulation breathing. We teach our clients how to do very specific breathing techniques. So when the fear hits and they're in front of people and they can't do some other things that we coach in, they can just breathe and get through it. And that way the shaky voice goes away. They stop their shaky hands. They can get out of their own way so they can think appropriately and they can keep going, right? If it's, obviously a high stakes, we coach people for high stakes moments.
Right.
Another big thing is to physically just move that energy, move that fear. Can I tell you about a couple ways that I've done it, like for myself in my office?
Yeah, for
And I
sure.
coach our clients on how to do it. I've had moments where I've been scared of things for sure. I was asked to do a keynote for Homeland Security in front of almost 500 women at Homeland Security who are, carrying guns and tasers. And I was afraid to speak to them because I'm like, what value do I have to share with them? These women are my heroes. But how many times do we experience that where we talk ourselves out of a really great opportunity? And that fear would have really, prevented me from sharing some great value to them, right? So I had to work with our psychotherapist on how to get through that fear. Like, where was that mindset issue coming from? So I had to get through that. But when it happens physically, where something is happening to me in my office and I'm just nervous about something or there's some fear, I have a walking pad where I will just turn that on in between meetings, right? I'm a little nervous before a meeting or a podcast I'm going to record. I move that energy with walking. I coach our clients to walk around their campus before their big town hall meeting in front of 300 employees or 3,000 employees. Go walk the campus. Go move that. Get a little bouncing pad or like a trampoline in your office and move the energy. Bounce it out. Right. I've had clients who were about to get up on stage and I'm there with them physically, and I've had them drop and give me. I'll do push-ups with them. Like, I can only do 11, but I'll make these guys do 20. And then it moves that fear, and then physically, and then they can get up and do whatever they need to do. But fear is it leads us to make terrible decisions, and we have to move through it, and we have to move through it quickly as CEOs, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So you also wrote recently that you are the anchor that employees, boards, investors, and clients trust information more when it comes from a leader that they feel connected to, and that the CEOs that show up in town halls, video messages, and they actually go to where the work happens, aka the Gemba, that they become known and they become trusted. AI is all around us right now, and there's deepfakes and AI generated content, etc. How does the advent of AI change what a leader needs to do to be credible to their people, to their clients, and to the rest of the world?
I think we need to show up. I know we need to show up as all our authentic self, right? And like, how do we communicate now when it's most important, when they need to see that this is really me talking and it's not my comms team that created something and they use chat GPT to do it or whatever? We're having a lot of clients show up with a AI generated talk, and we can see right through it. I'm like, who wrote this for you? And they'll say, I threw it through AI. And I said, well, we have a lot of work to do right now because no one's going to believe that. And some of them are IT heads. And I'm going to bring that up as an example because they are talking about very complex things that a lot of departments inside of their company don't understand. So those folks over anybody else need to really make it extremely, why is this important to other departments? Why is it important to the CEO? So it has to be real talk, and it can't be, we can use AI as a tool, but it can't be completely written by AI and then we get up and we read it, or we get up and we post that on LinkedIn, or that is the Friday update email. we have to go in and rework it into our own voice. We can use it as a tool to start, to help us, to coach us a little bit on, can you please find the flaws in this? Or can you help me, make sure that I'm hitting all the things I need to hit with this audience, whatever it is. But we have to work on delivering it in a way that is super authentic. We have to show all the layers to our onion. I I can't say enough about showing up on LinkedIn, showing up, writing as the leader, your real true thoughts, and talking about your vision of where the company's going. Yes, you might do it internally in an email, but they're going to more likely read it on LinkedIn on the weekend or at night when they're scrolling through that, because they're going to be there faster than they might be checking their email at 10 o'clock, right? So it is so important to lean into your real words, your real thoughts, your real vision, what matters to you and your heart right now, and not just on what AI might write for you.
Yeah. So in a lot of companies, PR communication is delegated to human resources, or there's a separate PR function, and that the senior executives rely on, but it's almost all outsourced. So what is your advice to a senior team that thinks of PR and communication as some outsourced function to the human resources department?
You've got to take control of it. It has to be your voice. I just know that when I coach leaders who need to get up and give a talk, and they say, well, somebody gave it to me, like somebody wrote this for me, and then you can't deliver it the way someone else writes it. It's a really good start, and you need to delegate some of that to someone else. I get it. You are back to back to back. You are so booked. You are so busy. And we can't delegate our own voice. So can you work with the comms team? Can you work the PR team to at least say, here are the 3 things I need to get across in Q2 to my team, or Q3? Have them give you some kind of rough draft. And then you've got to get in. We teach leaders how to mark up your scripts, right? You take it, you mark up, you underline things that you want to hit when you then deliver it. You circle the words you want to hit. Where do you want to pause? Because if we completely delegate it and then you get up and you deliver it at a town hall or at a quarterly meeting or your annual speech that you give in October or in March, it is going to lay so flat, and you're not going to get the return on investment of all your time that you put into it, flying there, hiring your comms team, all that stuff. It is going to be useless time. You might as well have not been there. You might as well have had a robot deliver it or sent it in an email. You have to practice that talk. You have to deliver it in a way that they're going to hear it. You have to work on your vocal delivery, your mannerisms, so they hear you and they go, oh my God, this is the most important part of this sentence or this whole 20 minutes. You have to give it the time that it deserves. You can have people help you, which is so important. It's so great that you have a comms team, HR, a PR team, all that stuff. And then you as the leader, you have to realize the time that needs to go into it beforehand to make sure you deliver in the way that is your voice and you come off as that thoughtful, inspirational, magnetic leader that you were hired, that you're paid the big bucks to be.
Yeah. Well, I love that you're really hitting on authenticity in these last couple of questions. And I also love how you've pointed leaders to start writing. Get on LinkedIn, develop your own blog, whether it's video or the written word. I prefer the written word, but forcing a leader forcing themselves to get to know their own voice, because there's no way that a leader can sit there and mark up what somebody else has given to them for their own voice if they haven't discovered what their own voice is to begin with. Am I on the right track?
Yes, yes. They had a voice, and then we get to CEO position and we sometimes lose it because we think that we're supposed to lean on completely 100% this team to write it. Like, we forget that we were really good writers and we had thoughts because we wouldn't have been here unless we are really great thought leaders, right? You had the thoughts and then you think like, "Oh, now it's someone else's job," because you have a 5-person or 20-person communications team. It is still your job. You have to be that lightning rod, that amazing person who attracts the rock stars to your company. You have to be the person who keeps the current rock stars because they work for a person and not a logo. We know this. So you've got to show up and keep showing your heart, who you are, what you're all about, because especially these 20 somethings now, they want to work for like somebody who they really believe in. And so you've got to show up and show them who they believe in.
Kathryn, what have we not talked about today that we should have for maximum listener?
Oh, I cannot underscore enough about leaders showing up on LinkedIn, right? Like, and you, Andrew, you said, you're into the written word, which is great. A lot of folks are afraid of it, right? They're afraid of how I might be judged by my writing. So even just popping on and shooting a video and plus putting that up on LinkedIn. If you're more comfortable with this, make sure to do this. But we cannot underscore the importance of communicating your vision, where you think the company's going to go, where you think the industry's going to go, giving people psychological safety by showing up as a leader, making sure they see you. When you're an invisible leader, people feel very concerned, like something is happening and that they should be concerned, and you're going to lose people. They're going to go to your competition because they will see someone communicating. So however you like to communicate, it needs to be done, and it has to be your own, coming from your own voice and your own head.
Yeah. Well, Kathryn, thank you so much. Can we have a little fun with a few lightning round questions?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Kathryn Janicek, you've just won a $100 million lotto jackpot, but there's a stipulation that half of your net winnings go to one philanthropic organization or a general cause. Who do you pick?
Anything for kids, health literacy for like 0 to 5. I became a mother at the age of 43, and I realized how little help there is. Like, and we had help, great grandparents, all the good stuff, jobs. We need more help for folks to know how important, and give them the support for great nutrition, great education for that, especially that 0 to 5, when we're really building that brain up.
Yep, early childhood development. Awesome. Kathryn, I give you access to a really little time machine, and you can send a message to an earlier version of yourself. What's the message, and what previous version do you send it to?
Early 20s. Stop going out with your friends and drinking after work. Go get a side hustle, create a business. I've met and coached so many founders, and I'm so grateful to have that opportunity to do it. And I'm like, what was I doing at 23, 24? I was working, it was good, but I had time. I had time. I had so much time to do other stuff before kids, before all that. I wish I I would go back and I would say, go get a side hustle, create a company on the side. You had so much time, and potentially you were wasting that.
Thank you. Kathryn, we're all works in progress. What are you focused on right now in your personal journey of growth?
I am reading, you know what? In the last 3 years, I've focused really on those books about like scaling your company. Now, in the last year, I'm focused on history books. I want to learn more about and understand more about like how we got here in the world. So I'm reading a lot of history books.
That's a great thing to do, because we all need to learn from our past.
Yes.
Kathryn, where can folks get a hold of you?
You can message me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I am everywhere. Kathryn Janicek. That would be great because I'd love talking to people and meeting new people.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your contributions to the show today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been really great to get to know you, and I'm grateful. Thanks for inviting me.
Right. Well, my name is Andy Temte. This is the Balancing Act Podcast. You can find the show on all the major streaming services as well as out on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, rate, and most importantly, share this public educational good with your friends, your family, your colleagues, and maybe a neighbor. The show is produced by Nick Temte, and we'll see you next time on the Balancing Act.